Hello everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. So today I am going to talk about working with artifact registry, how it is working in Google Cloud Platform, what is the concept. So I'll be explaining step by step. So I'm using the Skill Boost account. Based on these steps, I'll guide you and what is the outcome in this lab. We have to prepare this environment, working environment, then working with the container image, how to create container image, then after that will be moving ahead integration with cloud code, and after that the working with language package. That will be the agenda for this video. So let me start this lab. So as soon as start this video, we open this video with the incognito window. You just open this lab with the separate incognito window. This is the best practice. So let's follow the process. So before going to incognito mode, let me copy the password, then let me open new incognito window and just click on next, then put the password here, which is create virtually to login Google Cloud Platform. What we'll do, as soon as you put the password, then after that you will click on agree and click on agree and continue. Then the next step, what we'll do, we'll prepare the lab environment. So here you can see, I'll explain before going to execute that steps. So what we'll have to do, we'll have to open the cloud shell. Cloud shell is a virtual CLI environment machine which will help us to interact with the Google Cloud Platform. So let me put all these command. So this command is primarily create an environment variable of project ID, project number, region, and config set the region, I mean the environment variable of the region. So this piece of command will help us to create an environment variable of project ID, project number, and region. So let me execute that. Click on authorize. Once done, yes, completed. Now move on to enable the Google services. So how we achieve that? So copy this. So what I'll do, I'll paste the gcloud command to enable the API. So the API, what we will do here, so cloud resource manager API will enable, container Google API will enable, artifact Google API will enable, container registry API will enable, container scanning API will enable. So let me execute this command. So all API successfully enabled. So then the next process to clone the public repo. So let me do that. So this is the command git clone https. This is the public URL and the path which will have to redirect to cloud code sample. It's the folder. After clone, I will go to this particular folder. As you can see, cloud code samples. And let me check what all are the file here. You can see these are the file which I cloned from the public repo, right? So now let me go to the next process. So the next process to set up the script, will have to prepare the infrastructure. So this is the command to create a cluster, Kubernetes GKE cluster. This is the gcloud command to create the GKE standard cluster. So let me complete this process. The command gcloud container clusters create container dev cluster name, and which zone you are going to create, that you have to mention. Let me hit enter. So what we'll do here, I'll create the GKE cluster. So let me quickly check in the console whether it is creating or not. As you can see, container dev cluster is started to create. So we'll wait sometimes to create this cluster. Then after that we'll move on to the next steps. So in the right side, as you can see, the learn tutorial. Get started with GKE. If you are very new to the process, so you can follow the tutorial process, how to do, what to do. That will be helpful. Meanwhile, I want to create one autopilot cluster. Let me create that. So as you can see, as soon as you click on create GKE cluster, so there is the option which you can see, autopilot mode and standard mode. So you can select the cluster mode that will that would like to use. If you want to learn more, you click on learn more. And what is the difference between these two? Let me explain. The automatic based on workload, you configure the scaling here. You have to configure. Google manage and configure your nodes. You manage and configure your nodes. Scaling and node management you have to do in the standard. But in autopilot, you have to you don't worry about the scaling and nodes, that will be managed by Google. And the configuration, the configuration part, the streamline configuration ready to use. Here you have to configure. You can configure all the options. Workload supported, most workload except this limitation, but all Kubernetes workload supported here. Billing method, pay for pod, here standard billing method, pay for node. And Kubernetes API and node availability SLA, and Kubernetes API availability only. So if you want to show the view all difference between these two, so you can check here. So you can able to get the insightful document to know more about this difference between standard and autopilot. So now let me click on configure autopilot. Let's get started. Let me click on next. Let me select the default one for now. Let me click on next. Done. Now click on create. So my autopilot cluster is creating now. Started to create. So let's wait to provision. As I already created one container standard container dev cluster. as for the lab instruction, but in addition to that I want to explain a little bit more about the autopilot cluster. That will be helpful how we'll use in the real time. Just intention to show you the difference between standard and autopilot, that that is already explained, but whenever you will do some practical, then you'll be uh, more clarify on that. Generally, it will take some time to provision the cluster. Let's wait for some. As you can see, now completely created the standard cluster. So let me quickly check. Yes, my standard cluster is ready, in ready state, and my autopilot cluster is still it is provisioning. So now let me move on to the next steps, and quickly check my progress where I am completed. Now we'll move on to the task 2, working with container image. So what we'll have to do here, create a Docker repository on artifact registry. That we'll do through the gcloud command. So let me create one artifact repo through gcloud command. So this is the command, gcloud artifact repository, create the name of the repo, and the repository format is equal to docker. So this is the command to create. So just to validate whether it is created or not, in search bar you will type artifact registry. Then you will check that the name, you can see container dev repo, as you can see here, container dev repo, right? So that is already created. Let me move on to the next steps. Let me quickly check the progress status. Yes, assignment completed. Now go for configure docker authentication to artifact registry. So what's the command? So this is the command, gcloud auth configure docker based on your location. So it will authentication of the artifact registry. So let me use this gcloud command to for authentication. Do you want to continue? Yes, I want to continue. Done. Docker configuration file updated. So now move on to next steps. What I'll do, I'll go to the folder where the code is available. Let me go to that folder and let me check the code file. Yeah, I'm in this particular file. So let me quickly go to the next steps. Push the container image to artifact registry. How will do that? So this is the command, docker push command. So we push the create the docker image and push into the artifact registry. So okay, so what I'll have to do here. Okay, so before that, what we'll have to do, I missed one point. First we'll have to build the docker image uh, following this command. After that we'll post the container image to artifact registry. The whole process will be first build the container image, then after that push the container image to the artifact registry. So let's go ahead and execute step by step. This is the command to docker build. So it will start the build. Once the build docker build completed, then we'll go for the next steps. So as you can see, the process is going on. Yeah, Maven verify all this downloading file, all the required dependencies downloading. Yeah, so generally it will take some time, but not more than 2-3 minutes, but it will quickly complete. Yeah, completed now. Now we'll go for the Docker push. As you can see, you can check also after built your Docker image is created or not. So this image I will push to the artifact registry. So let me paste this command here, Docker push command. So then quickly check here container dev repo. So this is the standard process. So make sure that you will follow this the best practice. First you'll write the code and ready with your code, then build the docker build command you'll use to create docker image, then you'll use the docker push command to push the docker image to artifact registry. So let me quickly verify that. Here you can see quickly whether we have successfully pushed the docker image here or not. As you can see, Java hello world was our docker image, right? As you can see, Java hello world, this was the docker image, and we have already just now, you can see the time also, you can check when created it, just now, right? So now move to next steps. Review the image in artifact registry. We review perfectly fine. Just click on little bit one more steps to review the details. Yes, this is the tag name, tag 1, and this is the details information of the docker image. So we verified. Now we move on to the integration with cloud code. How we'll do that? So first we'll use the cloud shell workspace. So this is the simple command to use cloud shell workspace. Okay, initializing your cloud shell editor. As you can see, successfully we open the cloud editor. And the code you can see here. All the required file is also here. So now what we'll do, we'll just click in cloud code. Then after that, what we'll do, run on Kubernetes. Then we'll, based on the lab instruction, we'll put this and click on enter. Okay, so what we'll do here, we click on run on container, then here all these file is displaying here. Based on the lab, we'll select the file name is Java hello world, Java hello world, Java hello world. Here we can deploy directly after this image. If we image bring from the okay, so what we can do here, after docker image stored into the artifact registry, so here you can deploy also. So let me tell you what's the steps you need to follow. So here I can see there is a deploy your icon here. So as soon as you find this option, click on the deploy. Then because this video I'm going to talk about deploy to GKE, so click on GKE. So then need to select which cluster you are going to deploy. So let me, the existing container I want to deploy, and initial environment, anything you can put here, dev. Done. Then add a container. This is my container source repo. So my existing container I want to use. Done. Now continue. Then okay, so now let me select the cluster name. Here one of the major area you have to select. Suppose I have created autopilot and standard. So which cluster you are going to deploy your Docker image, that will really interesting fact. So here you choose, here you select the autopilot. You can see, so autopilot and standard cluster, both cluster is displayed. But for this demo I am going to select autopilot. So let me, already my cluster is created, so let me click continue. If it is not created, you have to create. Then click on expose, which port you want to expose, load balancer. For example, I want to expose in 8080, so let me then deploy, click on deploy. That's it. Then deployment will start in my autopilot cluster. So this video is all about like you create the Docker image. Then once Docker image created, that Docker image you will push to artifact repo. From the artifact repo, how you will deploy your application to your target environment, whether it is a standard GKE cluster, standard mode, or autopilot mode. For now, this video I explain about how you will deploy the Docker image into the autopilot mode cluster. So that's all about.